Hello and welcome to this interview series ahead of Cloud Expo Europe on the 6th and 7th of March at Excel London. I'm Rebecca Uffindell, tech reporter at Techarati, and today my guest is Alev Yildirim, engineering leader. Alev Yildirim will appear at Cloud Expo Europe in March, but today we're going back in time to talk about 3 significant years in Alev Yildirim's life that has shaped their life and career. So thank you so much for coming and for agreeing to take part in this interview. So what would be your first year of significance and why?
I think the first that comes to my mind is really back in history. I guess it's around 2002 when I was still in high school. And I think in that year, one of my classmates decided to drop out of the school and she got married and built a family. Um, I am originally from Turkey, and I was born and grew up in a small town in Ankara, which is the capital of Turkey. While girls leaving school or getting married was by no means a mandate or a standard at that time in that town or like in Turkey in general, it wasn't uncommon or unusual either. You know, our prevalent role models largely comprise of our elder sisters, cousins, aunts, and even our moms. Often followed the similar path, but rarely ventured into higher education or professional realms. Like this event or this example at that time became a pivotal moment for me. It sparked a conscious decision for me to, break away from the societal expectations and hopefully broaden the array of role models for younger generations following us.
Do you think this has become more of a trend throughout your life? Is that you like to buck trends and see how far you can go and what things you can kind of subvert to get the best out of your life and your career and experiences?
Yeah, I tried to do that. Yes, like I think that was some sort of inflection point for me to pursue what was difficult or sometimes uncommon or unpopular, and hopefully be a role model for people following.
Was that something that was encouraged for people celebrating you for doing that?
I am lucky in that terms. I am coming from a family who supports education a lot. Like despite them being not having higher education, they have full support for their kids. My brother also studied physics and engineering, and they supported him, they supported me, and our success was always celebrated. I think that was one of the encouragement that I felt behind me. Even if I do the unpopular thing, I knew they would both encourage me and celebrate me for my success.
It's interesting to hear that your brother is also doing physics and engineering. Were you two kind of a bit of a powerhouse together? Does a lot of his work inform yours or vice versa?
Oh, totally. Like my brother is 7 years older than me, so he was my role model, to be honest. Despite having different genders, he was a role model and he was carrying the torch for me for education, going as far as I can go, doing the best I can do. So I was looking up to him, and of course, only after we come to after age, we started, bouncing back our ideas and help us go further in our careers.
And have you got any kind of examples of other instances where you've bucked that trend, as we discussed previous?
My examples are mostly from my professional life, I will say, especially after I realized the importance of supporting people from underrepresented groups. And to be able to create an inclusive environment, sometimes, more often than not, you voice the unpopular opinions in the environments, or you sometimes have to speak up on on someone else's behalf when they don't feel comfortable enough doing that. I think the first thing comes to my mind are those kind of examples, in crowded environments where people are outspoken, or for example, women in crowded meetings again asked to be the note taker or the scribe of the meeting. Someone needs to point those out, and both as a leader and also as someone who is super passionate about diversity and inclusion and inclusive workplace, I usually am the one who, or I am usually one of the people who points out those kind of things.
You spoke a lot about diversity and inclusion and minorities, and so would you like to speak a little bit further on that year that you've selected for us?
I am fast forwarding to 2015 to talk about the second significant year in my life that I can think of. And that marks the year that I started in a global multinational company, which is General Electric at that time. Up until then, I was working in large corporate companies in Turkey, but they were Turkish, and like General Electric era was the first time I was introduced into like very progressive ideals and norms such as diversity and inclusion, as we just spoke, or psychological safety, or like internal mobility. But don't get me wrong, it was not only the concepts or that made me, made me feel good about it. Was the real experience. I started working with many people across the world from a diverse set of cultures, backgrounds, opinions, preferences, which literally uncovered an entirely new and fulfilling dimension for me. It grew me as an individual and as a professional, and it helped me understand actually how important it is to have people around you from different perspectives, from point of views, and it's really very enriching.
Coming from a place of learning and then being thrust into the working atmosphere, and then learning about how other people may or may not be disadvantaged, then having this realization of, well, what can I do? How can I help further the conversation? How was that a kind of baptism of fire for you?
It wasn't easy. This was a mind shift for me to start with. Like, you are learning something is always, or not always, sometimes daunting and challenging, but the reward also lies there. Like, the more something is challenging, the more rewarding it is. And it took time for me to, of course, adapt into that different thinking model, that environment, being open and non-judgmental to any kind of preferences or ideas was something that I needed to educate myself for, knowing that it will pay off greatly afterwards.
Do you have any tips or tricks or things that really, as advice for someone who would like to learn more but don't really know where to start, or how to help further the conversation and challenge those opinions that are perhaps best left in the past?
I am a true believer of mentorship and allyship. Whoever is, not only for diversity and inclusion topics, I think this applies to almost anywhere, anything that you'd like to develop yourself or improve yourself. Like, try to find people around you who do you think are good at those. They will be more than happy to help you, like, especially if they are passionate about anything. So whenever someone comes to me about the topics that I'm passionate about, I will be more than happy to help them learn something or practice something new or overcome a hurdle that feels difficult at that time. So first tip, try to find out people around you who you think are good at what you are trying to evolve in this concept, diversity and inclusion. Allyship, again, is extremely important. Allies doesn't need to be sharing the same preferences or privileges with you. They usually have other privileges that may help you overcome the difficulties that your situation brings you. So having them around that and help them help you will, expedite the journey for both sides. I think that if there's one important thing, I would say mentorship and allyship.
Have you had any mentors of note or people that you've looked up to that have really helped your career? What were some of the traits that they had that you really respected?
Of course, I had many mentors, and I still have, and I've been in both sides of that mentorship relationship. I mentored many people, I got mentorship from many other people, and this is an ongoing journey. Growth never ends. And what are the traits that I look for? It really depends. There is no one size fits all kind of thing, and it changed for me over time. It changed for me depending on my needs and requirements at that time. But like from a general traits that works all the time perspective, like I usually look for people who I think I can trust and that are transparent. That's really important for me. And yeah, like the other traits depends on the situation or the area that I'm trying to improve or get help for. But trustworthiness, transparent, being humble, those are like evergreen traits that will always, make a mentor a good mentor.
And now for your final year, what year have you selected for us and why?
Yes, yeah, that's an unfortunate year actually for almost all of us, for the entire world. Like around 2020, and a very unfortunate global crisis in the name of COVID hit all of us. It brought unprecedented challenges to everyone. We all suffered and struggled in different ways. But for me, it was also became a period of introspection, and it allowed me to reassess my priorities, my preferences, and I knew I wanted to take another step further and start physically living and working in a diverse environment. And again, with COVID, we were forced to slow down, and things started to be more virtual than it ever was, which made companies, interviews, all those processes more accessible and approachable in a way. And with the lockdowns, of course, some people had increased workloads with additional family responsibilities, childcare, elderly care, or homeschooling responsibilities. But many of us also had additional time that we didn't have before. At the end of the day, who didn't bake their own bread at home at that time?
That's so true.
Joke aside, like revisiting my priorities helped me understand what I really wanted, and this remote setup helped me achieve my goals by giving me more preparation time. And at the end of that process, at the end of that time, I relocated to London as an engineering manager in one of the great companies. It was Yelp at that time. And that was, I think, the last significant year that I can talk about.
Do you have any goals in mind that you look back on and through that period of kind of isolation that was quite daunting for everyone? What were those things that you managed to achieve?
I'm a Mediterranean. Every time I had free time, I was usually with my friends before COVID, or doing some social activity. But with COVID, we were locked down, and like I heard this sentiment from many other folks. I realized many of us told that we were not very good at spending time by ourselves or with only the significant others. That period helped me slow down, and not only on the professional topics, but on all the topics. It gave me time and energy and motivation to look back and reassess. Professional growth was one thing that came up for me, or relocating or moving outside of Turkey. And that was the most significant one. But there were also smaller things on the personal side that I thought, okay, this is time to act on. But again, the most significant one that worth sharing was the professional move, or like a big step, like changing the country that you live in.
Are there any kind of things that you've learned through COVID that you now practice in your professional perfect life? Do you still maintain that time and period for introspection or reassessing? Do you still maintain those kind of practices?
Yeah, I try to. Of course, not as much as it was before, when you were forced to stay home. But I realized the power of that, and I'm trying to apply it to my day life, or again, not as frequent as it was before. Another thing that I think changed the way we work for all of us was hybrid working, and like during that time, I realized I am not set up for remote work for 100% time. But I also realized it is very difficult even for me to go back to office 5 days a week. And I realized it is really important to be able to split the work into two separate, buckets. One, the social aspect when you need to go to office, meet with people in person, because it still is more effective to resolve things, to get things done in a group environment or when you need more than one person. And the home, like working from home time for me is more productive for heads down kind of thing, like writing posts, writing emails, writing documentation, getting things done, that I spare the work from home days for those kind of activities, which doesn't require other people other than me or less people compared to the office work. So that was also another, I think, changed the way I worked after the COVID time.
Do you have anything in particular looking forward that you're looking forward to, or any future goals or ambitions that you have in mind for yourself for this year?
I love working with people. This is why I love being an engineering manager. This includes like helping people out, unlocking their potential, again, mentoring them or learning something from them every day. And I am looking forward to doing it more and better and more efficiently. Like as we said before, growth is never ending. I'd like to keep growing and being a better version of myself every day, every year, and that's the never-ending goal for me. This applies to this year as well.
And you will be speaking at Cloud Expo Europe on the 6th and 7th of March at Excel. Is there anything you would like to share before the event and before your speaker session there? Or any wisdom you'd like to impart before the big event?
Well, like I am seriously deeply looking forward for the event, and I'm super excited about it. That will be an event where like thousands of people, professionals coming together to share wisdom, share knowledge, and learn from each other. I'll be part of just one speech, but I'm more excited to hear from others, because again, I believe there are a lot of things I can learn from others, and I really hope people who are listening to us are equally excited with me for the event. I believe there will be amazing sessions that will hopefully enlighten us.